everyone, and welcome back to the channel, Say What's Real TV. We are back like we never left. Jax is back, the entire crew is back, and we added some more chocolate, Mr. Morris Chestnut, and we love to see it. This review is for Hulu's Reasonable Doubt. This is Season 2, Episode 1, Can I Live? So we open up the episode with two scenes, and we're cutting back and forth between the two. We have Jax and Lewis in the bed. She's cuddled up. She wants him to stay, and he's apologizing, telling her he has to go to work. We have the altercation between Chanel and JT that played out on the finale of last season. We see him on the floor bleeding out, yelling at her to call 911, begging and pleading. JT then apologizes to Chanel, and she says, "I'm sorry too," as she dropped the alleged weapon, watching him take his last breath. So later on, we see Jax having a therapy session with Dr. Lennon, and we find out that it's been 2 months since the whole ordeal with Damon. Jax says that she's feeling a lot better. She's able to do her daily routines without feeling stressed out about it, and that she hasn't had any nightmares in like 2 nights in a row. So Dr. Lennon wanted to know, did Lewis move back in or not, and she told her no, but says that he's over there quite often and he leaves early in the morning so that the kids don't find out. And she also lets it be known that they haven't been intimate in months. The doctor asked her about the medication. Has she started it yet? Jax told her no. She feels like that's cheating in a way, because Jax just seems like the type, she wants to do everything her way or the highway and just on her own. So Dr. Lennon told Jax that she can go ahead and clear her to go back to work. And Jax was looking like she didn't realize this would be their last session, and the doctor told her it didn't have to be. Jax gave the impression to me that she really wasn't ready to go back, but said that the job was expecting her, so that pressure was on her. And Dr. Lennon let her know, look, I don't have to clear you. If you're not ready to go, you do have choices to make, so you can sit and think about it. But of course, Jax being Jax, gonna always put that S on her chest so she doesn't feel and look like a failure to anybody else, and told the doctor to go ahead and clear her. But before leaving, the doctor told her, don't be afraid to set boundaries. Be honest about the things that you can and can't handle, and don't be scared to ask for help. And we all know that it's hard for Jax to do any of those things. And just a side note that has absolutely nothing to do with anything, I am noticing and loving the graphic t-shirts throughout the episodes. So next is where we merge the 2 seasons together. We come to the very last scene of Season 1's finale, when Jax is taking her morning run and Chanel calls her and tells her she had just unalived JT. So, of course, Jax rushes over there like a speed demon to see about her friend. So when she gets there and goes in the house, she's automatically triggered because she sees JT's body on the floor covered in blood, and she starts having flashbacks about the situation with Damon. So when Jax sees Chanel, she's in shock because she has all these bruises all over her face and her neck, and she wanted to know what happened. Like, did JT do this? And Chanel basically told her she was trying to leave him for real this time and take the kids. They end up getting into it. He started choking her and she couldn't breathe. So next thing she know, it was just a lot of blood everywhere. She ended up calling 911 and then calling Jax. So one of the guys from the crime scene unit told Chanel they had to take photos of her injuries for evidence. And Jax intervened like, yes, you can go ahead and do that, but we have to get her to the hospital. And initially, Chanel didn't want to go to the hospital because she said that everybody would know what JT had done. So Jax reassured her that she did understand, but they needed to get her to the hospital to get her treated and to document her injuries, and told her, look, everything going forward is going to be very important. So Jax, she calls Lewis and tells him what happened, and she wants to know, can he meet her at the hospital? But he reminds her that somebody has to go get Naima and Spencer from school. So Jax, she completely forgot about the kids. She has a lot going on right now, and Lewis told her, look, don't worry about it. I'll pick the kids up. He asked her about her medication, and she told him she hadn't had a chance to get the prescription filled. But in Jax's words, what she told Dr. Lennon is she didn't want to take the medicine because it felt like she was cheating. But whatever. But before they get off the phone, Lewis tells her that he loves her, and she says it back. And you can tell they haven't uttered those words to each other in quite some time. So we head over there to the hospital. We see Chanel in the room with a doctor and 2 detectives. We then learn that x-rays have been taken. She has a sprained wrist. There's lacerations on her throat and trauma to her esophagus. And the doctor also pointed out that she has a broken rib that Chanel told her she got about a week ago. So the doctor, she gives Chanel some instructions and she leaves. And the 2 detectives, they stay behind because they want to ask Chanel a few questions. So while all of that is going on, we see Jax in the hallway going through the motions. When Sally and Autumn, they show up, they hug it out. They can't believe what's going on. So Sally, she leaves to go talk to her cousin. Autumn stays behind to talk to Jax, and she is in sheer disbelief of everything that is going on and wonders, has it really been this bad between Chanel and JT this entire time? Jax basically says this is going to be one big media-ish show. All of a sudden, Jax starts having this panic attack, and she tells Autumn she has to leave, she has to go home, but everything is already set in place for Chanel when she gets discharged. So Autumn asked her was she cleared to go back to work, and Jax was slow to answer as if she forgot or something. And she said yes, that she was. And Autumn was happy to hear this and said that thank God, because Chanel was going to need all the help that she can get. And then Sally comes out and they were like, well, how is she? She tells them that she does not know because they wouldn't allow her to speak to her. And Jax was like, well, who is they? Now we know how Jax is. She is going to find out what's going on and get to the bottom of things, so that overwhelming feeling and that panic attack she was just having, it doesn't even matter right now. So she gets in the room, she sees the detectives questioning her, and she shuts that all the way down and let them know that JT is not the victim. The real victim is Chanel. She told them they had what they needed and they were dismissed. So Jax asked Chanel what did she say to the detectives, and she told her not much, that he was choking her and she had to get him off of her. And Jax basically told her if they come back, she can't do any more talking. So Chanel, she starts crying and she's telling Jax, thank you for helping me. I don't think I could do it without you. And then we see the look in Jax's eyes, and she knows she has a lot on her plate right now. She hasn't even really made it back to work yet, but she knows she can't leave her friend out there on that island. She has to help her. So Jax, she finally makes it home and Lewis is there waiting for her. So when she gets inside, she has another panic attack. Lewis said he got a prescription filled, so he gives her some water and one of the pills to take, and she calms down. So Jax, she immediately starts going to work trying to get stuff together for Chanel's case, and that's when Lewis realized that Jax is taking on the responsibility of being Chanel's lawyer, and he wants to know, can't you get somebody else to do it? And in Jax's mind, she feels like, look, this is my best friend. She has a lot going on. It's just self-defense. It's basically open and shut. It shouldn't be too much pressure on her to take on. Lewis just wants her to realize she also has a lot going on. So he brings up couple therapy to make sure that they're still on for their appointment. And Jax tells him she'll figure something out like she always does. And she kind of gets a little slick at the mouth, and they have a little light back and forth. And he's like, look, I really don't want to argue. I'll just go home. And she basically calls him a runner and a track star, and he says, look, I want to be here, but you make it difficult. And he leaves. So it's the next morning. We see Jax. She's obviously stressed out. She looks at the prescription medicine and she doesn't take it. Instead, she starts smoking like a chimney, damn near half a pack of cigarettes. Jax, she finally makes it back to work after being out for a while, and she's walking through like that boss. She gets in there and she gets greeted by Daniel and Crystal, and she tells them how much she missed them and gives them this great big old hug, and Crystal can't believe it. Like, is this the same Jax or not? They pretty much go straight into work mode, letting Jax know what they've been working on, where they're trying to get tea from, what research they may have done, and basically Jax is back like she never left. So we head over to this board meeting where we learn that Rich from season 1 is no longer there due to moving because of his wife's job. So they welcome Jax back and give her a round of applause, and she pretty much gets straight to it and brings up the JT case and says that Chanel is one of her childhood friends. And then we get this off-colored joke from a guy named Vince, and I could tell Vince is probably going to get on my nerves, but whatever. So Jax tells them that she wants to try to scale back a bit so she can spend time with her family. So the head guy was like, are you not going to be working on a Tucker case? And Jax was like, it all depends. And he's like, on what? Because didn't HR approve you to come back to work? or is this a more permanent hiatus? So low key, it was given he was trying to tell her either you're coming back or you're fired. And apparently Jax took heed because she was like, well, I'll be keeping you up to date with the case. And if looks could kill, all of them would have been unalived the way she looked at each and every one of them while Khalees was blaring in the background screaming, I hate you so much right now. Child, if they know like I know, they better leave her alone. The lady has a lot going on. So Jack, she goes and check in on Chanel having her psych eval, and she talks to the doctor, and she tells Jax that Chanel is suffering from survivor's guilt and that even in his death, she's still scared of JT. So we get to see Naima with her dad, and she's asking questions about Chanel unaliving Uncle JT, asking questions, and Lewis basically is telling her don't be looking on social media, reading all that stuff. Just ask him whatever it is she wants to know. So she's asking. And he tells her, yes, she did unalive him, but it's more to it than that. She then asks her dad, is her mom going to be Chanel's lawyer? And Lewis wants to know why. Do you not want her to go back to work? And she is more than ready for Jax to go back to work because she says that she's all up and through her and Spencer's business and she's becoming quite annoying. Lewis has to tell her she's not annoying. She's just trying to heal because she's been through a lot. Naima, she understood, and she said she just wants her mom to be okay and tells her dad she's glad that he's there every night, and he's shocked and appalled like, well, how do you know that? And as the old saying goes, all closed eyes ain't sleep. But she does tell her dad, we are smarter than you think, and he's like, clearly, and wants to know, when did you start calling me dad instead of daddy? And she tells him only babies say daddy, and Lewis is realizing that his baby girl is not a baby anymore. So we see Jax going over to the state attorney's office to see Mike carrying a box of Randy's donuts, which apparently is Mike's favorite. So she's really trying to get a feel for where Chanel's case is, what's the investigation looking like, where they're at with it. And he basically tells her they're looking at like aggravated battery, involuntary manslaughter. And Jax is really trying to sway him into looking more towards self-defense. So Mike told her if the evidence aligns with what she's saying, they can work something out. And as he's grabbing a donut, in walks this lady, and he introduces her as Lucy Wargo. So Jack, she offers her a donut, and then Miss Goody Two-Shoe is like, oh no, we're government employees, we can't take gifts or bribes. Like the mere fact that you brought your nosy ass in his office and didn't even say what you came in there for was a problem for me, like she has to go. So Mike gives Jax the rundown on Lucy and says that she hasn't even been there a year and has already worked in a couple of different places, and she's originally from Vegas. And word on the streets is that they call her Wargo the Warrior. And Jax was like, child, whatever happened in Vegas need to stay her ass back in Vegas. Facts. So we see Lewis going into some type of market, cafe, restaurant, whatever it was. So when he gets inside, Jax is in there and she turns around looking at him crazy like, what are you doing in here? And he says he came in there to get a juice because he just left the gym. And I'm like, was this just a coincidence or was he tracking her car's location? Now we know that that's how he found her car the last time when she went missing. So she says to him that she knows that he's worried about her, but this whole case with Chanel should be over in about a week's time. So Lewis is pretty much trying to spend some time with her, and he asks her if she's going back to work, and she says no, she may just go home and watch TV. So he tells her that the babysitter has the kids until 6:30, would she just like to sit and talk and eat? She agrees. So just like clockwork, her phone rings and it's Daniel. So while Lewis is over there getting his juice, she's getting all this bad news from Daniel about Chanel's case. So Daniel told her after talking to the medical examiner, come to find out, Chanel did not call for help until 2 hours after JT was unalived and also moved his body. So as soon as Lewis comes back to the table, Jax jumps up and asks for a rain check and tells him she has to go and see Chanel. And Lewis is sitting there like, what the hell? His little bubble got burst real quick, and it's like, I can see what he's talking about, because every time it comes to her spending time with him or them enjoying each other, she prioritizes work over them. So Jax and Daniel, they go over there to talk to Chanel about the information they just got from the ME, and she's saying that there's no way that it was 2.5 hours before she called for help. So Jax asked her, did she talk to the detectives about it? And she said yes, but she don't really remember what she told them. Everything was just a blur. And basically Chanel's story is really just crumbling like a cookie, because then she claimed she ran upstairs to hide, and then she called Jax. So Jax was like, wait a minute, you mean you called me before you called the police? Because that's not what you said at the crime scene. It was the other way around. So again, she says that everything was just a blur. She really can't remember what was going on at the time. So Jax was like, okay, fine. They also said that you moved the body. She says that she turned his body over to make sure he was unalived. And I'm like, girl, you could have touched his wrist for a pulse for that. And if you were that scared of JT, even now in death, I don't see her touching his body. So Chanel, she can't even understand why they're even talking about this. This was self-defense. So Jax had to remind her that with the celebrity status of JT, this is a high-profile case, and the DA can be pressured to charge her with something with all these inconsistencies that's going on. And she needs to come up with a plan of what she wants to do in case it becomes more than self-defense they want to charge her with. So I found it interesting that Chanel was so quick to want to cop a plea, but then she said she doesn't want to take her daughters through a long trial, going through months of scrutiny. And I feel like it's something she's trying to hide, because every time something comes up, she was like, oh, people are going to know this and they're going to know that. So it's something that she's hiding that's probably going to come out sooner or later. So later on, we see Jax in the bed tossing and turning. So she wakes up in a cold sweat as if she's having one of her nightmares, and she is panicking and rushes to go take her medicine. So now we go to the couple's therapy appointment, and Lewis is sitting in there with the therapist, and Jax is nowhere to be found. So she gets in there late talking about she's sorry, something came up at work. The therapist is like, look, well, good thing I don't have anybody after you guys. We can stay later. And Jax says that she can't stay late and she has to leave early. Once again, proving Lewis to be right that she puts work over everything. So the two of them, they go back and forth until the therapist intervenes and says, it seems like the two of you have this point system in your relationship, like who can hurt the other one more, like you hurt me, I hurt you, basically tit for tat. So the therapist was like, who normally does the hurting first? And without blinking an eye, quickly, Lewis says she does. And of course, they get into it again because Jax tells him that ultimatum was very hurtful to her. So they get into it again and they really cutting up. And the therapist was like, let me interject. Do the two of you want to reconcile or uncouple? So they look at each other and they pause and they think about it, and they both say simultaneously that they want to reconcile. I actually like what the therapist told them. He said he wasn't there to be a points collector or a co-signer, but he was there to help them become better communicators through respect, generosity, empathy, and ultimately trust. So he tells them that it's good that they still argue because it means that they're willing to fight for their relationship. He also goes on to tell them that it's good to argue, they just have to argue better without hurting each other. And if they're wanting to save their relationship, they're going to have to put in the work, but it will not be easy. And after going through all of that, when Jax and Lewis leave from out of the therapist's office, she asked him, should they continue to go back? And he didn't want to hear that. He just said, bye, Jax, and walked off. And she's like, damn. But then she gets a phone call and it's her mom. So Mama Lou says that she just saw in the news about JT and wanted to know was Chanel okay, because she knows how it feels to lose a husband. She's still going through it about Paul. And me and Jax looking like, child, please. So then she tells Jax that somebody posted on Facebook that JT was whipping Chanel's behind. Like, can you imagine that? Because he always seems so nice. And I would expect her to say something like that because I'm sure Paul seemed nice as well. So Jax, she brings up therapy, and Mama Lou said that she went once and it made her feel worse. And I would expect that from her because it probably placed a mirror in front of her where she needed to accept accountability for something that she didn't really want to face. And also she's older and set in her ways. So of course, she's not going back to therapy. But before all of that, she does mention to Jax that she has some young tenderonis all up in her inbox trying to get with her and that she still has it. And I find that odd that she's so giddy about it considering Paul has only been gone for like 2 months. So Jax, she rushes over to the DA's office to talk to Mike, and she finds out he is no longer on the case. So Jax is like, well, what happened? He says that his boss would rather assign it to a woman because this is going to be big, high profile, and they have to guarantee a win. And he had already lost the Brandon Miller case to Jax. So Jax was like, well, who gets the case? We didn't see Wargo the Warrior entering her press conference to Tupac like she is about that life, child. And she is announcing that they are officially charging Chanel with first-degree unaliving of JT, and she is getting arrested. So Jax, she goes and storms in Lucy's office and confronts her about arresting and charging Chanel without speaking to her lawyer. Child, when I tell you Lucy was unbothered, like, oh, well, I'm sorry. So Jax was trying to explain to her that this was not premeditated, it was self-defense. Lucy flipped through all her little paperwork and went back through the evidence and recited it back to Jax and was like, look, you're a pretty good lawyer from what I hear, so are you sure that I'm wrong? So the two of them, they go back and forth, and Jax tells her, stop trying to clout chase through the media with her press conferences. It's embarrassing. She tells Jax she's not looking for any attention, promotions, or any of that, and she doesn't care about celebrity or football or whatever you people celebrate. And I'm like, you people? Like, girl, no ma'am. Lucy, see, that right there is why you need to hurry up and take your ass back to Las Vegas, quick and in a hurry. So Jack, she goes to see Chanel, and Chanel cannot believe that they're charging her with this crime. Now, Chanel made it her business to ask Jax, did she believe her, as if to say, if I can pull one over on Jax, then I'm good. That's what it was given. And Jax has to tell her, look, it's very complicated. It's a lot going on. The evidence is just not looking good with the inconsistencies. And she tells her that the plea deal is off the table. Chanel wants to know about bail, and they have to wait for the arraignment if they even offer it at that time. So Chanel is saying that this is all too much, but is it me, or does it seem like Chanel's tear ducts are all dried up? Because I have yet to see a tear. Now, she does ask about her girls, and Jack says that they're being taken care of. One is with JT's mom and one is with Sally. So Jax reassures her that they're all there for her no matter what happens, and that she loves her. And Shay says, I love you more. Now, when Jax gets back to her car, she just totally breaks down. We see the tears rolling down her face, and she is really going through it. Just feeling the pressure of not being able to help her friend. Her marriage is in a shambles. Still dealing with this whole Damon thing. Those a-holes at that job. It's just a lot. We see Jack, she's home, over there chain smoking on those cigarettes again. Louis, he comes over and they start talking, and he brings up the therapy session and says even though they were angry with each other, they're still willing to be husband and wife. And he wants both of them to promise that they would never give up on each other no matter what. So she brings up Chanel's case, and she tells Louis that it's going to be way too much for her to deal with. She would have to spend too much time and effort and energy putting into the case to get Chanel off. And she realizes that he was right, that it has been one hell of a year and she's been through a lot. And now she's ready to put herself first and their marriage. So Louis, he's nervous, but he's quite thankful, and he tells her that he's proud of her, setting boundaries, being able to say no to Chanel, knowing how bad she wants to help her. So Jack says that she's wondering if everything she thinks she needs is trying to kill her. And I thought that was an interesting statement. And after she said that, Louis, he took the cigarette from her, because we know cigarettes can unalive you as well. And we know she's over there chain smoking. So he asked her, does she have any idea who could possibly take her place to represent Chanel? Jack says it's going to be tricky because she needs someone that's going to fight for her in and out of court, someone who supports women, and she doesn't think anyone at the firm is capable of doing that. So Louis asked her, do you have anyone else in mind? And baby, all of a sudden you hear that mystical beat drop, and you hear some moaning and groaning in the background with Danger playing, and it's Morris Chestnut, my baby daddy, aka Corey Cash. We see him putting in work, hitting it from behind, all up and through them guts. I'm like, yes, Lord. So apparently everybody's reached their point of satisfaction, and he left that piece smoking per Mystical. So they're trying to catch their breath when Corey's phone rings. So when he answers, he's like, hold on. He looks at the girl, and all of a sudden the music stops automatically, and I like how they did that. So he asked her to give him a minute, and in my mind, I'm thinking like maybe go to the bathroom or another room, but apparently that meant haul ass. And she's like, are you serious? Like, for real? And he gave her this look like, did I stutter? And didn't say one mumbling word, and she walked out. But he didn't give a damn. He was like, Jack Stewart, long time no speak. What can I do for you? She gives him the tea, and he's basically like, WTF. And that's where the episode ends. Woo child, what did you guys think of the season premiere to season 2? Do you think that Chanel premeditated this whole entire thing, or was it really self-defense? Will Corey Cash be able to come in and help her out? Will Jax and Louis make it? They're trying. They are trying, you guys. Let me know what you thought about this episode. Drop down in the comments. As always, you guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And I'll catch you on episode 2. Peace.